Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is Thursday, short week this week. Today's guests, including John Shannon, standing by, are brought to you by the Giants of Vancouver, the Vancouver Giants. Giants celebrate St. Patrick's Day tomorrow night at the LEC. They're going to wear their special blue and green Pat Quinn jerseys with the emphasis on green when they take on the Everett Silvertips. Puck drop is at 7:30. Get your tickets now at vancouvergiants.com/tickets. We got John? Okay. Joining us now, as always on a Thursday, NHL Analyst, co-host of the Bob McCowan podcast, John Shannon. Mr. Television, how are you?
Great, boys. I'm on the visiting bench at Rogers Place in Edmonton. Pete DeBoer wants me to play for the Dallas Stars tonight, but I tell him I'm going to play hard to get.
So for people who don't know, in Edmonton, you're helping out with the broadcast, Stars versus the Oilers. You're in touch. You've been there for a day or two, John. How much confidence have the Oilers got in Stuart Skinner?
Well, they don't have any choice right now, quite frankly. But I think that what's happened here is that they know if they can put him in goal, that he's got a chance to make a difference. And this team probably gives up a few too many goals, but at the same time, Skinner's been able to make the right save at the right time, particularly in the last few starts, the one in Boston in particular, and then Tuesday night against Ottawa. So there is a lot of confidence in Skinner. But at this point, Jack Campbell has become a work in progress again for Edmonton. That has to be a concern.
Okay, pardon my ignorance here, John. A lot of people have to do that. How often do you do Oilers games?
So I probably do 15 a year, and I also I do the radio pre and post every game from wherever I am at that time. So and then I do the same thing in Winnipeg as well. So I stay busy.
The reason I asked this, and I've always talked about this being a bucket list item for any hockey fan, do you ever get tired of watching Connor McDavid?
Oh, no. And that's the amazing thing. I think Connor McDavid gets tired before we do. When you think about he didn't have his greatest game on Tuesday night against Ottawa after the trip to Toronto. But at the same time, he's just electric. And what you've seen, Donnie, is in my mind, in the time that I've been doing Oiler games since he got drafted, is a tremendous amount of growth as a person. And with that growth as a person has come growth as a player. And that's what makes it amazing.
John, 5 straight wins in Vancouver. The Canucks are 8-2-1 in their past 11. Not everybody's liking it, but here we are. Your thoughts on the Canucks' winning ways of late?
I looked at the standings this morning, Rick, and said they're tied with St. Louis.
That's right.
They have the same amount of points as the Blues.
Yeah.
And the people in St. Louis are upset with the way they've played, and you're wondering, well, what Rick Tocchet has done behind the bench, what having a healthy Thatcher Demko has done for the hockey club. Will this create some level of a false optimism? This team still needs things to be done. There still needs to be players changed on this roster. But will what the team has done in the record you stated change the thought process of Patrick Allvin and Jim Rutherford and Rick Tocchet? And I would suggest not. I think they have a plan. I think they're going to stick to it, and I think we're going to get a better idea of it around the draft, around the Bedard lottery, and around free agency on July the 1st.
John, we grew up with Billy Smith and his antics and Ron Hextall as well, but this Jordan Binnington guy, unbelievable. He's in hot water again, and this time he got a match penalty last night. He's got talked to the NHL. What do you see happening there, John?
Well, it's like starting pitching in baseball when you suspend them. I mean, there's always somebody else to do it, and maybe it's a blessing. Jordan Binnington has had a tough season. And when you think of his career and what it took for him to get to the National Hockey League and how long it took for him to get to the National Hockey League, he believed in himself, signed a great contract after winning the Stanley Cup, and perhaps he's putting too much pressure on himself and starting to maybe believe, and this may be hard to think about, too much in himself and thinking that he has to do more. Trust me, Jordan Binnington is kind of like kindergarten when Billy Smith and Ron Hextall in the same sentence.
True.
Big time.
Yeah. That was a fun era. At the time, fighting was much more accepted. Okay, we mentioned Canucks at Arizona. Canucks' first visit to Mullet Arena, 5,000 seats capacity there, John. And we started the show off talking about this. The Expo Hall, the Thunderdome, Tampa Bay, Ottawa Civic Center, the Corral, the Cow Palace. What's the most unusual facility situation that you have seen in the National Hockey League and maybe been to?
I think the Cow Palace was as strange a place as I've ever done a game. 10,000 seats. A lot of them were at an angle that even if you were 3 rows back from the ice, you couldn't see over the boards. It was a really strange place. The stories of in the old Western League, if the hockey team followed the rodeo, the ice was brown for 2 games. But it was a classic, ugly old building, never designed for hockey. And it really, if the arena had been built at that site in Daly City, we probably would have never seen the Seals leave properly. Going to Oakland was a huge mistake. And the other one is, I have a really soft spot for the Corral, Donnie. I moved to Calgary, and with the boards, the benches, each team's on either side. The boards were 6 to 8 inches higher in the Corral than they were in every other arena. So guys jumping over. There was a few sprained ankles as games went on. It was a fun place. 7,700 people. They had standing room season tickets at $20 in 1980, and it was electric every night for that first 3 years before they moved across the street to the Saddledome.
Yeah, I loved watching. I was in Red Deer at the time. I loved watching games there and loved watching the games on TV. That atmosphere really came across in the Corral.
You really
go ahead.
did.
Yeah, John.
No. It was. It was, and there wasn't a bad seat in the house, right?
Yeah.
It was. Yeah. You could see every player, and the dressing rooms. The players had to walk across the concourse to get to the ice. So their fans. It was just a fantastic little place to work on a regular basis.
Hey, before we let you go, Mr. Television, your opinion of that Tuesday game between the Rangers and Capitals. I don't know if you saw much of it, but ESPN and Disney combining to air an alternate animated version of that game. They called it the Big City Greens Classic. Just your opinion on that. I would call it a breakthrough.
Well, the technology was amazing.
Yeah.
Almost in real time. That was fantastic. And that tells you where the NHL has gone with player tracking, so that they are able to interpolate that data and create these opportunities. There are some players actually probably looked better in cartoon character than they did on the ice. And any hardcore hockey fan said, well, that's a gimmick. It shouldn't be, I think you have to remind them.
Yeah.
And guys like you and me and Rick, it wasn't for us.
Yeah.
It wasn't for us. It was for an 8-year-old kid, lives in the suburbs somewhere, doesn't know much about hockey, but they put it in a perspective that they might enjoy, and maybe they will go to a real hockey game, or maybe they will watch, a regular broadcast on ESPN the next time around. You have to take chances. Mm-hmm. You have to make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake. This was a great opportunity, and it looked kind of fun.
Yeah, I agree. Out at Port Moody, I'm involved in the Minor Hockey Association, and one of the people who takes care of the arena out there, believe it or not, is Eddie Beers, and he would agree with you on the Calgary Corral. Okay? So I'll say hi to him for you, John, if I see him again.
Big number 27.
That's right.
7. Good player. Came out of college.
Yeah.
He made a big impact early on. He was one of those classic college kids, right?
Yeah. He's retired now, but if I do see him, I'll say hi to him for you, John.
I want to say he played for the Merritt Centennials too, didn't he?
Yeah,
coached him.
That's where he's from. And Rick's right. He coached them.
He coached in Merritt for years.
Yeah. And University of Denver. John, thanks for this. Always great trip down memory lane. Thanks so much.
And tomorrow, please wear green and have a great St. Patrick's Day.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. John
Rick
Shannon.
O'Dollywall.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thanks, John.
Cheers.